Thank you.
Okay, let's start with Scott Bessent, because all week long it's been who's going to be Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary. And even though there are many, many outlandish or unqualified picks, Scott Bessent is a super qualified guy. Now, a week ago, when the battle was between Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent, Lutnick's camp was trying to crush Bessent because he once worked for George Soros. But the absurdity of that is, if you actually want someone, and I'm not saying you should, but if you want someone from the investment community, anybody who's a true baller has either worked for Soros, Julian Robertson, or Michael Milken. That's where we are. So the argument that he was once with Soros is silly. Yeah. But I want to ask you, Scott Bessent is unlikely to buy in to the mega tariffs and the plans that Donald Trump wants. And what we need is a Treasury Secretary who's going to create stability. So what's going to go down here?
Well, we don't really know yet, because Bessent, like other people in the Trump camp, has talked out of both sides of their mouth on tariffs, okay? On the one side, they say, look, America used to be funded with tariffs, and Alexander Hamilton was a tariff guy, so we're going to get funding from tariffs. On the other hand, they talk about it as a negotiation tool. You can't have tariffs as a revenue. In other words, we're going to spend based upon this revenue. If it's a negotiation tool, in other words, we can get rid of it if somebody else is going to lower their tariffs and we'll create free trade. So we don't really know what they're after. During the campaign, I did a story about this, which was that the billionaires, the Bessents and their ilk, talked about the tariffs as, oh, Trump doesn't really mean 20% tariffs on everything. It's a negotiation tool, so they kind of rationalize it, learn to live with it. If it's a revenue tool, you're going to have tariffs on everything, and it will be an order of magnitude different from anything we've seen in this country in a long time. So I don't really know what policy he's defending yet.
Donny, did we learn our lesson for tariffs from the 1930s? Tariffs? Did we learn
Apparently
our lesson
not, Mr. Lemon.
Well, I mean, do you know what I'm saying? It's the scene in what's his name? Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like, right. Anybody? Did this tariff help? No. It pushed us further into a recession or depression.
Yes,
haven't we learned
Trump,
our lesson?
He loves it on the campaign trail, because for people who don't know how it works, it goes back to the America First, Made in America, and the question will be, does he really do it? My question to you, Donny, why did he have this beauty pageant for the last week, okay? Scott Bessent has been on the trail with Trump for the last 9 months, right? During that period, he took himself off boards. He prepared himself. He removed all of his conflict of interest because he was ready for this. And we have now spent the last week watching Kevin Warsh is talking to Trump. Now it's Mark Rowan. Now Kevin's back in the game. Was this all because Trump loves to get his ring kissed by mega successful guys and have Wall Street?
Are you asking me to answer? Yes, okay. I mean, why not? Why wouldn't he? And look, Trump's got two types of picks. Remember the movie Young Frankenstein, Abby Normal?
Yes.
Okay, there's the Abby Normal ones, we know which one. This is a normal one. This is a solid one. And to your point earlier, the thing about him that maybe separated him from Rowan and the other guy is that he was the most loyal of the bunch. That's coming from you. So that seems to be the thread that's kind of pulling everybody together. I don't know how he is telegenically, because that's the other thread. If you look at just about every one of his other picks. Now, Treasury is not out in front as much as some of the other types of picks, but be interesting to see.
I heard that he didn't actually get along with Mark Rowan either, and Mark Rowan flew from Hong Kong to meet with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. They apparently just didn't really gel, but Trump liked the idea of him, coming along to kiss the ring. I thought all along that he would want a person with a big brand on Wall Street, like to Trump having Wall Street kowtow to him. And
all of them have it. Kevin Warsh, Scott Bessent, Mark Rowan in the investment community. Last weekend, you had huge guys calling every possible person on the Trump team to say, please do not pick Howard Lutnick. He's a super successful guy, but he's sort of all over the map. Right. And as far as professional investors who truly understand global markets, all three of these guys are good picks. But that begs the question, let's talk about covering them. Because this conversation that we're having right now, the fact that Donny just said there are normal picks and there's abnormal picks. There are people on social media right now complaining, saying that table is sane washing this. I cannot believe you're saying positive. It's
you're reading my mind, though. You're reading my mind, though, but it does drive me crazy, because I sit around and I watch the news whenever I do watch just corporate media, and everyone comes on and they're like, well, let me just say that the president should have someone who is a loyalist, and no one says, well, my gosh, Pam Bondi is really not as normal a Republican as people think she is. Let's remember how Pam Bondi got into this. She was suing Donald Trump's foundation, and then he donated money, and then all of a sudden she backed off, and then she was Mitt Romney, and then she was Jeb Bush, and then all of a sudden, right? And so, but no one starts with that. Everyone tries to sort of appease everyone and, you know, the bosses and whatever, and they pretend. This, I think, probably out of this, Scott Bessent, and that's probably the most normal.
Marco Rubio.
But what I'm saying
what she's saying is that, what I think you're saying, and I said this the other day also, is that we're so ready to pounce that everything, you know, we've got to call the balls and strikes as we see them. I mean, Marco Rubio, as far as I'm concerned, was a great pick. Lutnick, a solid pick. This is a solid pick. And then there's the cray picks. But, you know, we've got to kind of start to, I mean, let's call it as it is, you know, defense. You know, we all know about Gates, Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, they speak for themselves. But let's call the balls and strikes.
But and it's almost like you're saying what I'm saying. Let's call the balls and strikes. Yes, but I mean, as I said, this is probably the most normal. I mean, Marco Rubio he's got his issues as well. The fact that folks are saying like that Marco Rubio is some sort of straight-laced guy who was always in Trump's camp, whatever. No,
I mean,
he's qualified for the job.
Okay, he's qualified for the job, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't have issues that one can't talk about.
I mean, the issues that Marco Rubio have are the standard issues of the Republican Party. He represents the party at this point. I mean, he has moved so far from being considered like a neocon and a hawk to an isolationist, saying that we should be, you know, getting troops out of Ukraine. So they've all shifted towards Trump. And that's because the common thread between all of these people that decide to work for Trump is that they crave proximity to power and to have power themselves. So they will adjust whatever they have to do to be in Trump's administration. And also, I think, you know, I was reading the FT recently, and Bessent was asked about devaluing the dollar so that they can increase exports. And he was like, I've never seen somebody so tongue-tied. I mean, this is just like one of the myriad of issues that all of these people are going to have to deal with.
Okay,
and that's when the leaking
hold on a second. He may have been tongue-tied for the moment, but there is zero shot that Scott Bessent doesn't have deep understanding of devaluing in the U.S. dollar. He is one of the most talented,
Yeah, but Trump wants him to devalue the dollar.
Yeah, so they're tongue-tied in how do they represent Trump? But this goes back to Donny's point about being telegenic. Because all week, everyone keeps busting on this whole cabinet saying this is a made-for-TV cabinet. But it's by design. Yeah. Because Donald Trump looks at these people, and while they may be, some of them, wildly unqualified, they know how to connect with an audience. They know how to sell. And so how important is that? Because we're coming off an administration where Joe Biden got so many extraordinary legislative wins that people never heard about. And they didn't know that the Biden administration even got them done. Is there a method to this that actually works for Trump that maybe Democrats can learn from? You're about to say no, because you're giving me full hate.
I'm wondering, when you say telegenic, like, what do you mean? Can they sell what Donald Trump wants, or if they're good looking? Because when I think of telegenic,
a little bit of both.
Sorry.
A little bit of both.
Who's good looking?
I mean, can they communicate with an audience? Can they break something down and have people hear it, see it? There are lots of people.
I would say yes. I would say if you're talking about Pete Hegseth, he knows television. So he would be a telegenic person. But does that mean But does that mean he should be the defense secretary? I think not. But is he telegenic? Sure, he's telegenic. He knows to stay on television. He knows how to promote a message. He knows how to get dudes to want to join the military.
Can he sell policy, right?
Yeah, he knows how to tick women off by saying women shouldn't be in combat roles. I don't know how telegenic that is, but he knows all of those things. And a couple of I don't think Matt Gaetz is telegenic in any way. I think Matt Gaetz is kind of, to the average person, is a bit repelling. So
to the extraordinary person, he's also repelling.
He's also on Newsmax all the time, though, for what it's worth. They like him on the right, and he's very popular in Florida. So
I've covered and interviewed every Treasury Secretary going back to Lloyd Bentsen in 1992, and there can be very, very different Treasury Secretaries. Some end up being a pillar in the administration that end up advising the president, having a center of power on their own. Others end up just simply doing the bidding of the president.
Oh, this is a great point.
So we don't know yet. First of all, we don't know what the policy is that could be asked to defend. When you talk about telegenic or not telegenic, I wonder about whether or not this person in that position is going to be somebody who is going to stop or foster the president from taking extra constitutional measures.
Well, that's the billion-dollar question.
That's the whole game.
Important question. He had certain people in his first administration who stopped that from happening, And when you talk about normal, I think, Donny, what you may mean is that somebody who can stop the president from deploying the military against American civilians.
Well, we're going to have to see new behavior because obviously we have not seen this current group of Republicans stand up on any issue. So we're going to see. We're going to see. There's certainly, I don't believe. I'm hopeful. Because I don't know how to live any other way. So we will see. But that's the whole ballgame.
But Trump has said explicitly that he was unhappy with his cabinet picks from the first administration. So
he's going to be happy with Bessent. He's going to be unhappy with Ruby. He's going to be happy with all the people that Donny called normal.
But no.
Well,
those are different.
As I say, he's been happy with them.
Yeah, he was unhappy with Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions. But I don't know that he's going to have that many conflicts with Scott Bessent because Donald Trump wants the economy to soar. He wants the stock market to do well. He wants to say, how are you doing when he goes to Mar-a-Lago?
Inside the Treasury is a very professional department of economic, both forecasting and evaluation. They will be given the numbers and the policies of the Trump administration that will spit out deficit numbers. We shall see how those numbers handled by the Internal Treasury Department when the President-elect Trump proposes his tax measures, how those are handled. That will be a test of whether or not we have normal operation or something abnormal.
If he doesn't like it, isn't he going to say, well, this is a deep state?
It will be interesting to exactly what I'm talking about, Don.